to fix that. There we go. Luckily you didn't get to hear me cough right at the start of the game. Boy, that would have been embarrassing, because I've never done anything embarrassing on stream before. Welcome into game number 2 of Chobo Team League week number 4 between Team Composite and the Killer Pikachus. Spawning up in the upper right-hand corner, this is the DreamHack ESV version, just because I looked it up, not because that's the official version. But anyway, the DreamHack ESV version of Cloud Kingdom. In the top right-hand corner, in the yellow color, playing Zerg for Team Composite, it is ChairmanMao. And spawning across from him in the lower left-hand corner, in the blue color, playing Terran for the Killer Pikachus, it is MHSValencia. Now this one I can actually explain the color changes in. Sometimes we'll see teams just inexplicably have certain colors on their team based on player preferences, I guess. But this one is kind of how the match was set up to be. But I argued that the Killer Pikachu should have their own colors since they're the defending champs and they should play in the yellow. So in most of the games I believe you'll see Killer Pikachus wearing their own yellow color and my Team Composite going for the red as sort of our backup color. But in this one it looks like they got a little bit switched up. So not too big of a deal. This is the secondary color for TKP and the primary color for us. Again, I have to stop referring to us as us. I did say I'd try to make this as unbiased as possible. Anyway, we see ChairmanMao going for the 15 hatchery, and this will set him up for a good economic situation. We see MHSValencia going to go for the 1 Rax gasless fast expand. So this is a very classical matchup with build orders in this matchup. ChairmanMao following up with a 15 spawning pool, and we'll see if there's an early gasizer from him or if he opts to go for 3 bases. Those are kind of the 2 choices available to him at this point. Meanwhile, Valencia, I imagine we'll see 1 Rax into 3 Rax, and that sort of standard nonsense. We've casted Valencia once before. I don't remember the week, but he was playing a nice TVD on Shakur's Plateau, where he just kind of slow sieged his opponent the entire game and looked really dominant there. So Mao has his work cut out for him this week, as Valencia's looked very strong so far in competition. So there's the 400 mineral mark, and Valencia throwing down that command center. Mao is going to get that gas geyser just to be a little bit safer. This means that you can transition into banelings if you need them, or roaches, or whatever the situation calls for. Whereas if you go for that quick 3rd base, you may be stuck trying to defend an early push with only a handful of Zerglings, and that can be a little bit more difficult without just fantastic micro. But Mao getting out those 2 queens, we'll see if he goes for 4 or 6 or however many he wants to. But Mao does get in, I believe. Yes, he does spot the command center, so full scouting information right now from both players. Nothing too hidden as of yet. We do see Valencia going for that early bunker, and is number 2 and 3 back behind this. We'll probably see that followed up by double gas and blah blah blah. But it's a very standard, very safe opening. I have no problems watching it a million times. I just like to make fun of people who do it. Not that I don't. I will also say that. So game number 1, very macro-style game between our 2 bronze players. This is a Silver League matchup, and it looks like both players are going to be content to sit back and power out some workers and very low-tech units, and we'll see another very macro-oriented game. And as justification that, Valencia throws down his 3rd command center. And 3 CC builds, actually fairly common on Cloud Kingdom, just because this 3rd base, fairly easy to defend as Terran. If you get your siege tanks in a good position up here on the high ground, and over here, you can feel very safe on those 3 bases. It's the 4th base that's always the trickiest part for Terran. This one's a little bit farther away, and putting a planetary there does set you up in a good position, but it leaves you very vulnerable into counterattacks for through the natural. Whereas if you take this one over here, you're a little bit farther away and really open toward Mutilus counterattacks. So we see Mao going to throw down his spine crawler at the front, and Valencia actually going to get a lot of scouting information in here. He sees a lot of Zerglings pop out, and he might be a little bit wary of the timing. especially since this baneling nest just finished up from Mao. So we will probably see a little bit of aggression here. Actually, we're going to definitely see aggression from Chairman Mao. 16 more Zerglings in production as they head across the map. 2 Marines at the watchtower actually spot quite a few of these Zerglings. And this is kind of a standoff. I believe both can see each other. And yeah, here comes Mao's army going to come around and take down these 2 Marines at the watchtower. Doesn't lose a Zergling in the process. Nicely done. And all of these are going to be made into banelings. We see the wall in now. Valencia knows that an attack's coming, so he's going to try to get the wall up at the natural. We see there's still some holes in it, evidently, and he's going to work to rectify that. But how quickly will that happen? More and more Zerglings being rallied in, 14 more on the way as they all gather up at this southern watchtower. And what is here to defend? It looks like 8 Marines, maybe 9 Marines, 2 bunkers, 1 in the natural, 1 up in the main. And this is really going to be a punishing build against the 3 commander style. In come the banelings. 1 does get targeted down, 2 get targeted down, but he is going to be able to bust through. There's still 1 baneling left alive. SCV is going to try to run up, and they just get pinned against these Zerglings. So the economic damage being done by the Zerglings here at the top of the ramp, but they are taking quite a bit of damage from these Marines. So all told, a pretty even trade so far, I would say, and he's going to start working with the natural. Of course, he's not going to be able to get this if Valencia just lifts this command center. SCV actually going to come in and attack. The reinforcement Zerglings coming in. Mao is actually going to go for the second baneling bust up to the top of the ramp. We see all the SCVs actually gathered up by the top of this ramp. This is really risky because the banelings just blow down the depot and anything behind that. And in come the banelings from Chairman Mao, taking care of everything down the natural. In come the banelings. How much damage will they do? It looks like they're going to get stopped on this depot for a little bit, but they all do get taken down. A couple of Zerglings coming up into the main. We'll see how much more damage they can do on these SCVs. Nice hold position command by Valencia as he repairs a lot of these SCVs, but more and more of them are falling. If there were just 2 banelings here, this could be the end of the game. But instead, it does look like Valencia going to be able to hold and now going to be forced back. Behind this, droning up. And as soon as I said droning up, he gets 16 more Zerglings. So the pressure might not yet be over. As we take stock of what happened, 18 workers killed by Chairman Mao. Very nicely done there. 38 drones to 18 SCVs, and our Zerg player in a pretty good spot. We see Valencia now forced back onto 1 base. He still has 3 orbital commands, so he can mine very effectively off this 1 base. We actually see he's pulled out of gas entirely. Needs to try and reorganize his base here and get everything back up and running. Siege tanks on the way, as well as siege mode, which is a great choice, of course, especially if your opponent's going to continue some pressure. Mao behind this, getting a layer down, getting a macro hatch, getting a 4th base. This is looking, or a 3rd base, excuse me, and Mao transitioning out of this pressure very well. It does look like he wants to put on more, getting 15 more banelings at the watchtower. But this may just be to kind of poke up and see how much more damage he can do. Siege mode nearly finished. If he can hit before siege mode is done, this can still do a lot of damage. We see Mao going to scout with his Zergling and see what's there. He'll probably see too many Marines for his liking and back out. At least that's kind of what I hope happens. But we do see Valencia. Looks like he wants to take down that Zergling, and there it goes. So the scouting information had, he did see a lot of Marines top of the ramp. And we see Valencia just continuing to wall in, which is actually really nice. We see this is basically a double wall. I believe there's a little bit of space back here. But that can be very beneficial, especially against baneling busts. If you have to break through too many layers of buildings, it's just not worth it at that point. But Mao, meanwhile, has his 3rd base done, transferring some drones over there. Macro hatchery done as well. And up 77 supply to 49. And this could just be a classic case where the game just kind of extends because the Terran was able to hold on. But the inevitable outcome is kind of a Zerg victory. So the onus is really on Valencia to make something happen. Maybe that's through drops, maybe that's through just really good targeting with his siege tanks. But he needs to find a way to get back in the game. Because right now he just trails pretty significantly. 56 SCVs to 29. They actually look, I'm going to disable sound there for a second. Army supply fairly even, so he could go for a little bit of a counterattack, but I think that's very, very risky given what his opponent's shown. but the Overseer going to come in. He does see quite a bit. That Changeling actually shot immediately. That was a really nice reaction time by Valencia. The spots the Natural's been retaken, and in come the Banelings. I'm not sure exactly what he hopes to accomplish, especially with them all clumped up. This may be really disastrous. He's going to take down a couple of Marines, and that's going to be about it. So unfortunately that attack didn't work out very well at all for Mao, and producing a lot of Zerglings back behind this. I'm not sure that's the right decision to continue to be aggressive, but he does need that army count. After seeing all those Banelings down, Valencia should maybe think about getting aggressive now. And it does look like that's what he's going to do. Stimpak and Combat Shield, of course, haven't been researched yet, so these are really unupgraded Marines. They are 1-0, and that's going to help them out a lot. And these Zerglings just getting torn through, and now Valencia going to put on a little bit of pressure. So the economic lead a little bit at stake here, and we see Mao supply block at 88, all the Overlords finally popping. But he needs units right now, and this is perfect. 13 Banelings on the way. The Centrifugal Hooks is done. Getting more Zerglings back behind this. He needs to start spending some of his 3,000 mineral bank right away, else he'll be in a little bit of trouble as the Terran army snakes its way through the middle of the map. He's going to head up into the third and get a nice siege position in here. And Mao really needs to gauge when he can engage this army and when he can. There's a nice scan. He does see the Banelings coming in. That Queen going to fall. In come the Banelings, though. They're getting picked off. But they do get a big detonation on the Marines. A lot of them cleaned up. In come the Zerglings. I'm not sure there's enough of them, but he's going to try and pick off the siege tanks. A lot of the Marines do go down. It looks like Mao will be able to hold at fairly minimal cost. He will pick off another siege tank. I'm not sure he'll be able to get this last one with this wave, but we do see 66 more Zerglings on the way. The reinforcements from Valencia need to pull back. This is a little bit of an overcommitment. And these Zerglings immediately going to be able to clean everything up. Look at the wave of Zerglings coming across from the Natural. Oh my goodness, the Zerglings. Able to clean that up. One Infestor on the way. I believe he does have pathogen glands. I'll check in just a second as we watch a couple more of these reinforcements just get picked off by the Zerglings in the middle of the map. And Mao actually doing so much damage with this little counterattack. This might just be the end of the game. We see 11 Infestors on the way as well. And if these Zerglings can't finish the game, then the Infestors certainly will be able to. 142 supply to 76, 13 Banelings in production as well. It actually looks like, yes, indeed the pathogen glands have been researched. +1 Carapace is done, which is very important for the Zerglings. They'll be able to survive an extra tank hit, I believe is how that works out. And this Natural not going to live for too long. Siege tank sieging up on the high ground, shooting down a couple of these workers, but actually the splash damage doing so much damage on these SCVs. A lot of them going down. The Natural falls. In come the Banelings rolling in, and we'll see what they do. This is nice targeting fire by the siege tanks, and Mao actually going to pull out now and wait for his reinforcements as they come across the map. Look at that train of Infestors. There's still some Zerglings over here, but the army really just needs to be gathered up by Mao. 145 supply to 80. Valencia now trying to reflip down Snap. He's had 3 orbital commands all game, but hasn't been able to really put them to use. I guess until now. After losing one, he's got a spare. So maybe that was the plan all along. 4 more Infestors on the way will bring his total to 15. Hive started as well for Chairman Mao, and really every advantage in the favor of our Terran player, or our Zerg player, excuse me. Stimpak being researched now by Valencia, but I don't think that's going to finish before this happens. Now moving in with his Infestor army. He does spot the Terran army moving toward the middle of the map, and he's going to be able to catch this and just kind of surround it and kill it. Infestors pop out. There's a fungal on all the Marines. There's only 2 medevacs here to try and heal them, and pop, all the Marines are dead. Zerglings, though, have actually been cleaned up. There might not have been enough of them, but there's still 15 Infestors out here. And they will start burrowing and moving in. I don't believe there's a skin available, or else he would have used it. Yeah, he just dropped a gigantic round of mules. Now throwing out the infested Terrans on top of these siege tanks. The siege tanks doing a little bit of splash damage to themselves, and look at all the infested Terrans coming out from Chairman Mao. And he should be able to start targeting down whatever he wants to. It looks like the orbital command going to be the target of choice, at least initially. And boom goes the orbital command. as well as a lot of the SCVs here in the natural, and the army of infested Terrans now moving up the ramps. He's losing a lot of them. Doesn't have vision of the high ground, unfortunately, so not able to do too much damage. But 138 supply now to 62, and if you just look at the bank, it's really impressive. But still 2 siege tanks, and Valencia still holds. He's down to 1 base now, and he's basically mined out. Another orbital command started back, or not orbital, but a command center started back in the main. Excuse me. Chairman Mao now using his opportunity, throwing down that Ultralisk Cavern, getting more and more upgrades. So he'll be at 2-2 on his Zerglings and Banelings. And still sitting in a very fantastic spot. 54 workers to 31. It's actually, look, 39 workers killed to 0 in this game. In Valencia now, making his double wall in, trying to prevent against another Baneling bust, which is probably inevitably going to happen at this point. As Mao just can't sit here for too long without killing his opponent, although Valencia will eventually have to move out to try to take another base. In come the Zerglings and Banelings and Infestors. The depots go down at the front, a lot of the Marines back behind it, Banelings detonating, all the Marines are basically gone. Infested Terrans coming out to try and deal with the siege tanks. Basically the Infested Terrans are the only units left, though. There's only a handful of Zerglings left, but the Infested Terrans are able to clean everything up. And there's the GG. And Team Composite has taken a 2-0 lead. Chairman Mao playing very well in that game. The Baneling bust just kind of snowballing the game out of control for him. So another really well-played game, and we'll head into Game 3 after a short break. So please don't go anywhere. You're watching Chobo Team League casted by Meristematic.